everybody, and welcome to another webinar here at Buzztime. This webinar today is going to be featuring Bar 2.0, 5 types of game-changing bar tech. We're going to be joined today with Jamie from Bar-I. Go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and introduce us. Myself, I'm the content and community specialist here at Buzztime. Basically, here at Buzztime, we handle tech, mostly entertainment, as well as digital signage, different types of technology that you can bring to your bar, help level up your fun, as well as just create different marketing opportunities for your bar. A little bit about myself. I started here at Buzztime just working in our customer support team, so I have a lot of experience working with bars as well as restaurants on the ground level, kind of helping them through their use of the Buzztime support system. And then I'll hand it over to Jamie, the CEO over at Bar-I.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Jamie. I'm CEO and founder of Bar-I. We're a 10-year-old company, and essentially we provide software, technology, and services to bars and restaurants that want to use inventory as a tool to make their bars more profitable. Really what we do is we use scales and software to precisely compare what bars are selling versus pouring on real life on a product-by-product basis. And typically we're able to help them reduce their lift cost by about 3 percentage points. That's sort of the point of what we do.
Appreciate you being a part of the webinar today. So we're going to kick it off with our first topic, which is going to be on-demand digital entertainment. I'll be handling this one since we here at Buzztime do have a ton of experience in the on-demand digital entertainment space. Spoiler alert, customer experience goes far beyond your food and drinks. What we've found recently is that fun is really a driver of loyalty, second only to your quality of your restaurant. This was done in a Facebook study of about 1,400 different people, and fun makes you Instagram worthy. That's kind of the big pull now, is going to be finding ways to make yourself socially relevant and appealing, but also give people reasons to come back in. You want to seek ways to put fun on autopilot also. I know it's difficult to kind of always be thinking about how can I make my bar or restaurant more fun? How can I inject a little bit more fun into the business? So finding ways to make that something seamless as well as easy to kind of move through is a big part of it. What today's bars really want is that fun and experience. So making sure that you can kind of gamify or socialize your business is a huge part of success now. One of these options would be going through something like TouchTunes. It's a kiosk-like jukebox. It lets your customers select the music through a smartphone app. It's really easy, and it's a little bit very intuitive for people to use as opposed to maybe antiquated jukeboxes. It also includes a photo booth, which is a cool introduction of a different social aspect to the jukebox. You can create different filters as well as add different types of overlays onto the different photo booth options. It's similar to how you would do with something like a Snapchat or an Instagram. Just kind of making a social experience out of your bar and giving you just a different point for people to kind of congregate around as well. It also offers some on-demand karaoke features. So instead of having a whole different setup for your karaoke at night, the TouchTunes has that integration so that it can make it so much easier and puts it on that autopilot-like thing that I was talking about earlier. Not having to have multiple different things to create this fun atmosphere, just having it in the background and being able to talk to it and just offer it to your customers without you having to just directly like, hey, go ahead and check out our jukebox. They can see it. It's very well advertised, and it really can change the atmosphere of your restaurant or bar. There are also pre-programmed playlists just to kind of create the atmosphere that you're looking for in your bar. So if maybe it isn't getting the play per se that you want, so you're not having a lot of people walking over and setting up their own playlists, you can create your own sort of playlist for the kind of vibe that you want to create around your bar or restaurant. and make it a lot easier and a little bit more seamless of an experience for your customers. Next up is going to be TV programming. Time to change the channel. One quick reminder I do want to give everyone is it's illegal to be showing different things like Netflix, HBO, Showtime, Hulu, any of those kind of big things. One simple trick is let customers know they can request a channel change. A lot of times people can be a little bit hesitant about being like, "Hey, can you change that channel to, a certain game that they're looking to watch, or something maybe that wouldn't be shown in your bar." But letting people know if they sit in an area but that they're pointing like right at a TV that maybe other people aren't watching, is giving them that option to be like, "Hey," or having your servers or your managers be able to go up and be like, "Hey, just want to let you know you're in a great spot for this TV. If there is something you guys are looking to watch, we can go ahead and switch that over for you, no problem at all." And it kind of gives your customers this kind of feeling like they are really important to you as a guest or a customer, and it offers them kind of a different vibe for your bar as well. They can be like, "Oh, I can come in and I'm going to come in and watch a Padre game," and maybe there's not a huge following of Padres fans in your area, but if you offer that channel and they can come in, you have someone that'll come back for different events, especially. Bar and restaurant TVs, there are some companies that do offer some sort of entertaining content on your TVs. One of those is Chive TV. There are different cable companies as well. They just create purely for hospitality, so like extremely like bite-sized America's Funniest Home Videos style content. That's just always on. There will be some sort of advertising in it as well, since that is how they fund it and can make it more affordable for bars and restaurants. But what it allows you to do is just kind of have something always on. People always take a look up at it, and they might get a good chuckle at it. I know here at Buzztime we also have that same functionality on our TVs. You'll catch people in the break room just staring at it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and that can be used to market to people in your bar. You can put specials up on there and make it more interactive for them. Speaking of interactive, that's kind of where we come in at Buzztime. We offer a trivia network for our customers that you put up on your TVs, so you can be playing trivia, poker, different arcade games on our tablets as well as on your TVs, and as well as market, like I said, to your customers. You can put up your Tuesday specials. You can put up different sorts of advertising for your company, along with having that interactivity and creating that fun atmosphere that you're always looking for at your bar or restaurant. And then handheld gaming, fun within reach. Again, touching on a little bit about Buzztime ourselves, we offer little tabletop tablets so people can just, if they are waiting for a table, if they maybe have kids, if they're coming into a restaurant that's more family friendly, or a bar that maybe you have tables outside of the bar area. It's a great way to have bring in parents that can feel comfortable bringing their kids in, as well as play on these tablets with like different Bejeweled style games where it's like match threes, different things like that. It's a lot better than having you have your bulky arcade machines still that take up a lot of your real estate. So these are a little bit more smaller form factor. They just hang up on your wall and make it a lot easier for you guys to kind of use the space as you want it, and it kind of can fit to whatever you guys want to do. About 2,600 bars and restaurants give guests handheld tablets to play trivia and arcade games. That's us, as well as different companies that do offer tablets or these gaming machines at the table, and it's a huge way for people to just keep entertained, even if it's just at their table playing trivia with each other or playing poker. It's just a fun way for people to interact and make them hang around a little bit longer. Order that next drink, order the next sandwich, things like that. And then I'm going to hand it over to Jamie. We're going to get into making the most of your existing POS.
So our specific expertise and interest is obviously providing inventory software and services to bars who want to use inventory as a tool to make more money. And one of the reasons, or one of the other systems we interact with in doing that, is is interacting with about 50 different point of sale systems. So we cover most of them. Basically, when we're doing it for inventory, we're just pulling the itemized sales data and we're writing recipes so we know when they press that Jack Daniels button exactly how much Jack Daniels has been sold, because we've written a 1.5 ounce recipe typically. But in doing that, we just see a lot of occasions when people are perhaps missing opportunities. Obviously, you're spending a good amount of money on your point of sale. And so that, to kick us off, these are a few things that we've uncovered that is normally a good idea you can do for free, won't cost you any money, and doesn't require you to change your system. So the first really basic one is what I call a two-way audit. Not the most exciting task, but certainly useful and help you perhaps capture a few more dollars. So the idea here is to first of all get a complete list of your inventory list of what you have in stock, and then go through it one by one. As I said, it's not super exciting, but it is, makes good sense. And make sure that you have an individual button for every single inventory item. So every single whiskey is in there, every single vodka is in there. Often we find that managers are more excited about bringing in new, the latest flavor of this or flavor of that. Those sales reps often are pretty pushy with those things. And if you get behind on not having a button for every item that's in your system, it's easy to lose money, because people will then just do, well, just charge them for this. You're kind of losing the control that you want to have over charging the correct amount, as well as not being able to precisely track sales and therefore compare it to what you're actually pouring. And then the second part of the two-way audit is just to do the opposite of that. So the first way, we were taking a list of all the items and making sure we had a button for them in the system. And the second thing we're going to do is go through all of those screens within the point of sale one by one, and make sure you just sequentially look at every single button and make sure that button pertains to a product which we're currently selling and is current. And of course, the danger if you've got old buttons, again, they're being used for in ways that they shouldn't be, because that product's not available. And again, it just ensures that we are ringing things up correctly, that we're charging correctly, and also when that guest sees the check, at the end of the night, if you poured them a certain type of whiskey but you rang it up as something else, it can often create confusion, and they're not sure if they're actually getting what they're paying for. So that's the two-way audit. Another one is just to monitor your comps and your voids carefully. Obviously, we understand the point of this, that comps and voids are an obvious and necessary part of the bar business. They also are a risk and potentially can be abused. People sometimes comp or void drinks that's really not for a business reason, or is outwits kind of the policy of the bar on that. So most point of sale systems do have the ability to run a comp or a void report, and we do recommend doing that on a periodic basis, maybe once a month, and just even if you're not going through line by line and checking every single one, if you notice a large comp and you say to the manager who was on that shift, hey, can you explain to me what this $50 comp was? It's great is check and balance, and just sort of spot checking the occasional one creates that expectation of accountability within the bar. Another trick you can do is maybe track your comps and voids each period as a percentage of overall sales. So if you check your comps and voids once a week or once a month, look at it compared to overall sales, and you should see it be somewhat stable. And tracking that is a good idea to make sure that when you have spikes, and you can figure out what's going on, what's causing them. Moving on to my third one is just charging for different sizes of drinks. Pretty obvious one, but obviously, if you're serving drinks on the rocks, for most bars that includes an extra half ounce of product, or obviously a double. It includes a larger pour. And sometimes bars aren't doing a great job of charging correctly for these. The first one is to make sure that we have everyone understands that rocks is a certain amount extra, and if we charge that much extra. I have seen the easiest way to save some money, or that we've saved people money, is sometimes the staff is pouring extra, and then managers are horrified to see that in many cases actually it's not upcharging. But that's just another basic trick to make sure that you are charging appropriately for those. And to go sort of next level on this, the most common challenge we see with modifiers is that we're using generic modifiers. So if we sell a well whiskey and make it double, or if we sell a Johnny Walker Black and make it double, we're using a generic rocks or double modifier. And the problem there is twofold: is that we're pouring obviously extra product, and therefore we need to be charging extra. But if you use a generic modifier that just adds a fixed charge, then you're kind of leaving money on the table, because whatever you can charge for that extra for the double of well whiskey, clearly we could be charging more for the Johnny Walker Black, and therefore it makes sense. Ideally, some point of sale systems like Two Touch will allow you to do this behind the scenes, where you'll just add a certain percentage of the original drink. And if you're using a more traditional, most of the systems, you sometimes do actually need to program individual drink sizes. But again, the benefit is to make sure that we're capturing those last dollars. If you're losing a few dollars a day, obviously that adds over at the time, and all of us here know that we're operating a pretty fine margin business. And another final idea is the upgrade for craft cocktails. Obviously, craft cocktails are really important and growing part of the industry these days. And often you'll have signature drinks that are made with a particular whiskey. Say, we make our signature whiskey drink with Bullet, and then you'll get requests to change and sub out that type of whiskey for something else. Thinking about how you're doing that, if you're allowing the servers to do that, and programming it into the point of sale so that we can add an appropriate charge again, make it easy for the server to sub products, and also have a way to correctly track it and communicate to the bartender. It's just another trick that I think adds some nice flexibility, and as always is important to provide a good experience and some flexibility to the client, and also make sure that on the back end it's easy for the customers and we're charging appropriately for it. Moving on, sort of some other point of sale things that are going on at the moment. Certainly, we've seen a big shift overall in point of sale technology. There is a bewildering number of point of sale systems. I'll say that the good news on this is that how you program your point of sale system, generally speaking, from a profitability perspective, is more important than which one you're using. Keeping up to date with those buttons, making sure we're updating the prices, that sort of stuff is more important normally than the individual system you're using. But obviously, the big change we've seen recently is going from server-based systems, systems like Micros and Aloha, which are basically all the data is stored on hard drives or servers at the bar, to newer systems, the likes of Toast, Revel, things like those, where the calculations, Lavu, where the calculations and the data is stored in the cloud. There's all sorts of benefits. There's some risk as well. I think we've got through most of the sort of teething problems of those systems, where we used to have terrible problems when the internet would go down and then you wouldn't have access or weren't able to run guest checks. Most of those cloud-based systems now have offline, online capabilities. So when the internet does go down, you still have connectivity. We've even seen bars installing a second secure Wi-Fi network, or even having a second internet subscription to make sure that they have that reliability and they don't slow things down. Because Murphy's Law, that thing is going to go down on a Friday night at 9 p.m. when you're really cranking it, and obviously costing yourself dollars. That time of the week can be enormously costly. On the subject of handhelds, a lot of bar systems and point of sale systems now are offering, rather than having to go back to a couple of stations to ring up drinks, now there's a lot of point of sale systems offer the ability to give the servers handhelds. The nice thing about those, obviously, is that servers can be stood at the table and actually placing the orders while they're stood there. A classic example is if you've got a group that sits down, the server might go up and instantly go and ring up a round of drinks for everyone, and they can press send on those round of drinks, and then while the drinks are being made and have already been sent to the bartender, they're asking questions about the menu and what food items to want to order. I've heard cool examples where perhaps servers are working together. Maybe someone sends the drinks, a tray of drinks comes up, and if you have a system where it's working well, and other servers, sometimes I've even heard stories where the drinks arrive while we're still taking the food order. And obviously, that is both great service and might increase those check averages. Because the quicker you get that first drink to them, the more likely they are to order another round, and obviously that can increase check averages. Another thing that some of these cloud systems are offering is integration with your online ordering. An example, we had a client that switched over from Aloha point of sale to Toast. And the reason they were interested in that is that Toast integrates with a number of those online ordering platforms like Grubhub, Uber Eats, and they're a pizza restaurant that does, takeout is a big part of their business. And they used to have problems because they would have 4 different machines or tablets that they were taking orders from. And now with the integration of online ordering, they've got the ability to take orders through all these other sources, and then they just get inputted into the point of sale system and print out a kitchen ticket like it was ordered by one of the servers. So that integration for the right business, if you're doing online ordering, pizza restaurant is a classic example where that really is a good fit. That can really smooth things up and cut the worst case where maybe you get an online order because it's not going through the standard channels. Perhaps people don't notice it. Perhaps there's a delay in doing that. And then the final one I had down here was just the amount of loyalty and analytics that's coming out of point of sale systems. You know, the original reason people were buying point of sales is to speed up service, to standardize those tickets for the kitchen, to make that simpler and have less errors. But those point of sale systems create an incredible amount of data. And you know, companies like Upserve are doing a clever job in terms of analyzing that data. You know, Upserve, for instance, will compare the reorder rate of different dishes, so they can see what are the winners and the losers. So, you know, maybe one particular dish, when people obviously in ones and twos that doesn't work. Once you add up all this data together, there's often some interesting insights. So, you know, if they notice that particular dish, when someone orders it, they're more likely to come back to the restaurant in a short period of time and reorder it, compared to other dishes which get ordered and then aren't reordered as well. It's just one silly little example about how that data can be used. Another way that, you know, analytics or the data being produced by a point of sale system can be integrated is with things like scheduling. So some of the smart scheduling options and technologies these days will actually integrate with your point of sale system. They'll do some predictions on revenue based on, you know, recent sales and recent growth. And by that, they're able to do more intelligent scheduling by predicting how many, you know, front of house staff are going to need different shifts. And obviously, you know, we're still going to need a manager to adjust those and realize that perhaps there's a local event going on, but it can be really helpful to cut down, you know, one of your big three costs, obviously being the labor cost. So moving on to connectivity to other systems, same thing. The change in point of sale systems is driving some of these changes. So none of us, you know, these days in restaurants are using an individual one software. Typically, you've got maybe a software you're using for scheduling, a software you're using obviously a point of sale, maybe for instance your accounting platform or your accounting system. And so the ability and the necessity for these systems to talk to each other is really important. Just giving a few integration or a few examples of those. So there are a few specialized accounting platforms that are specially designed for bars and restaurants. So they turn all of your purchases, scheduling, everything into a dashboard. So in as close to real time as possible, normally on a daily or weekly basis, you can see a dashboard of how much money you're making. And obviously when you can like start to drill down to things like scheduling and labor costs on a shift by shift or day by day, really gives you the ability to dial those things in. And I think it's becoming a little bit old school to be looking at these things on a weekly or monthly basis because of the detail that, to list a few examples, Restaurant 365 is one of the leaders. Also Complete, Buzztime, QSR Online, just a few examples. And then in our home state here in Colorado, RSI or Restaurant Systems Integrated, another example of specialized restaurant accounting platforms. Something that's close to our heart because it pays our bills, but inventory integration is another example about systems talking to each other. So I mentioned, you know, in the case of bar inventory, essentially what we do is we take an itemized sales report from the point of sale, it shows us which buttons were pressed during a set period, and then we're writing a recipe for each one of those buttons. So as I said, when you press that Jack Daniels button, typically we know that 1.5 ounces of Jack Daniels should have been served. That's a simple case, obviously, for the likes of Long Island iced tea or your signature drinks. It becomes difficult. Craft cocktails, we're having perhaps changing menus, cocktail of the week. Being able to use a recipe module to turn that record of what buttons was pressed into a precise record of exactly how many ounces of every product was sold unlocks kind of a profitability benefit where you can compare it to what's being poured in real life. And no surprises to most of us here, again, that normally most bars are using a lot more product than they're actually selling. Typically about 15 to 20% more alcohol is used in the bar than is actually sold. And the first step to addressing that opportunity is just to measure the difference. And then the final example is, I touched on this before, but with scheduling, and point of sale systems often can talk to your scheduling system to inform it in terms of think about what the optimal and correct number of staff is going to be. And obviously we want to have, you know, the appropriate number of staff, pretty obvious why, but we don't want to overstaff where we're getting our staff members to come in and sort of diluting the amount of money they make, And on the other hand, of course, we want to make sure we do have enough staff. So using data smartly to do our scheduling is really important. So handing back now to Michael, who's going to talk a little bit about digital menus and signage.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, we're going to touch a little bit on digital menus and signage. Kind of digital, of course, is the future. We have been seeing over the past few years just the movement away from actual print menus as well as print signage in bars and restaurants. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more. So, what is digital signage? Like I said, we're just replacing printed posters, your table tents, and even menus that you would hand out to your guests with some sort of way to give it to them digitally. Uh, Bars nowadays have huge tap lists with the increase of microbrews as well as just growing beer lists. People are going to the digital signage route, so they'll have boards that'll have all their different beers that they offer on a digital menu that'll maybe even scroll through their different beers as opposed to having what you used to see was just like a chalkboard or something that could rotate as opposed to doing like that rotating where you'd have to mark that off. It's something that can easily be updated through an app or even through your computer or anything like that. Specials and everything on their TVs. As I was touching on earlier, with different systems that do offer entertainment on their TVs, they also come with signage opportunities as well. So it gives you the opportunity to advertise different specials. If you have a 2-for-1 night, if you have a certain beer that you want to feature different nights, it allows you to do that a lot easier. You can build the ads yourself, so you don't have to rely on someone else to build out those ads because most of these different systems are going to have their own back ends where you can upload images, create text, everything like that, and it can just offer that easy, seamless marketing that you can do within your restaurant or your bar. That'll be extremely easy for them to use. Um, Even like pubs will offer like patrons some sort of handheld tablets for their instead of using like the paper menus because beer lists are always changing and that's a lot of paper to be running through if you are updating your beer list or updating anything else. Excuse me. Seeing paperless is just kind of the way to go. A Nielsen study found that sales of items printed on digital signage increased by 30%. So we're seeing just the increase of visibility through using digital signage and this shift to a digital way to promote your items. Many digital tablet menus have automatic prompts suggesting different upsells as well. So you'll see people, they're going to order a burger on their tablet and it'll be like, hey, do you want to get fries with that? Did you want an appetizer? Did you want to add another beer? It's all these built-in prompts into these different digital platforms that can help with upselling as well as creating a sense of urgency for the customer to purchase different items, and it makes it easier on your servers as well to upsell. Modern Restaurant Management reported that touchscreen ordering boosts check sizes up about 20 to 30%. So kind of touching on what I was speaking about, it offers those upsells so your check sizes go up. So let's say the person had a beer. They just wanted a beer. They ordered the beer. They're like, hey, do you want to order maybe some chips and dip? I mean, these are just little things, but they're going to add up in the long haul to a larger check size and an increased check percentages. Some other key benefits of going with the digital signage or menus, it has that green appeal. So in an era where we're a lot more eco-friendly or we're thinking about the environment and reduction of our paper waste, that can be even something that brings in people. And restaurants kind of will fate themselves on, especially here where I'm located. I'm here in San Diego, California. A lot of places will advertise things like their environmental friendliness or their impact on the environment, and that'll drive in a certain crowd. So it is something that you really can create that different kind of appeal for different, maybe a different demographic that you aren't targeting already. It also is just less clutter. Your tabletops don't have table tents on them. You don't have to have like 4 or 5 menus spread across a table. It can just be even just one tablet on a table where people can kind of flip through and they can look through different items that are offered. And it's just a lot more seamless. In the era that we are now with smartphones and tablets, everyone's going to know how to use it. There will be I'm sure, the off person that would prefer a paper menu. It doesn't mean you have to completely eliminate them for those kind of people, but for people in the younger or even the middle age demographic, they're going to know how to use these different menu platforms, and it's going to be an easier, more seamless interaction for them in your restaurant, and it's efficiency. You're going to turn tables a lot faster. As well as, people are going to be able to order their food when they're ready and not have to wait for a server who maybe is slammed by 3 or 4 tables. They can come over. They can just come in and check on them. They don't have to worry about making sure they're hitting that table multiple times. You have your lower print cost as well. Another thing that goes hand in hand with that green appeal is it's less things you're going to need to reprinting menus, reprinting posters. Maybe there's like a typo or menu changes. It's a lot less of that. It's an easy change on the back end, just going onto a computer, um, changing the menu, and you're on your way. And then just the convenience factor, like I said just a second ago, it's just a few clicks that you're having to do to change, as opposed to typing out a whole new menu. Or I know there's a lot of menu templates out there, but this is just so easy and so seamless for you guys that you don't have to put as much concern or worry into it. And then how do you use digital signage? Pro tip I would say is seeking out software with your existing TVs and screens. They include free templates. Doing things like having a customer or an employee of the month. Advertising people that showing your loyalty to your customers, but even to your employees. Like, people are going to ask for that server, or people are going to be like, oh, that's going to think that's really cool that they're up on their TVs, so everyone knows that they're like a loyal customer, or different things like that. It's a weird incentive to think about, but it is something that that does attract people. I mean, using even digital signage to drive viewers to your website or your loyalty program, different social medias, review sites. Like, if you want people to review things on Yelp, it's kind of weird to put it on a menu because no one's going to be looking at that. If they're looking up at the TVs and they happen to see, hey, check us out on Yelp, or we have a coupon on Yelp if you review us, things like that, it's a really easy way to incorporate your TVs into doing this kind of salesmanship for your social media, your Yelp, your loyalty program, or just driving people to your website if that's what you really want. And then you can even resell your ad space on your TVs. If you do have a system like, let's say, Buzztime or any other digital signage company, what you can do is you can drive people, you can sell out those different ad slots. You can look to people like local businesses that maybe are looking to advertise, your dentists, your real estate agents, in different things like that, or creating partnerships with other local businesses. It's just a great way to endear yourself to the rest of your to your local businesses. So you're creating this network of different businesses, but it also is going to give you some additional revenue by selling out that space to other companies. And it's a great way to build yourself within the community of businesses, as well as, again, put a couple extra bucks in your pocket. And then I'm going to hand it back over to Jamie for some inventory control.
Thanks, Jerry and Lola pointed out my speaker was not awesome. I just switched over, so hopefully that's a little bit better. Let me know if that is improvement. But yeah, let's jump in here on inventory controls. And as I said at the start, we're a 10-year-old company. To date, we've done about 9,000 detailed bar audits for clients coast to coast. So certainly this is based on a decent amount of experience. So starting by sort of explaining what I think is the problem and the opportunity here, we think about different levels of inventory, level 1, 2, and 3. And most bars still, I think, are doing level 1 and 2. So let me explain what those are. So level 1 is just real simple, basic, kind of looking on the shelves, seeing what needs to be reordered, and really just doing inventory so that we keep stocked up on things. Not really using it to measure financials, but really just sort of the minimum bar, which is set to make sure you have what you need in order. The second one is taking, of course, those integrating purchases and integrating sales, and then calculating a cost of goods sold, or what an accountant would call a cost of goods sold, and most of us in the industry refer to our liquor cost. So obviously, liquor cost basically tells you, for most bars, it's going to be in the range of the teens through the 20s. So like if you have a liquor cost, say, of 20%, what that means is that for every dollar of sales you have behind the bar, you're spending about 20 cents or 20% of a dollar purchasing the product. And so it's a really good high-level stat to understand kind of the efficiency and the profitability of your bar sales. So definitely encourage people, if you're not regularly calculating a cost of goods sold or a liquor cost for your bar, normally broken down by draft beer, bottled beer, liquor, and wine, those four main categories. Really, I think that's a good starting point. And before, some people ask, what's the industry standard, or what should be aiming at? It's really hard to say because it is so specific to businesses. So we, said work with bars and restaurants in 25 states, and we have a range among our really successful clients, all the way from one of our clients runs literally an 11% overall liquor cost, up to a bar in New Hampshire that sells a lot of expensive craft beers, and they run a cost in the low 30s. And both of those businesses are really productive, doing well. So it is very, very specific to your business model. But what I'm saying with when you're doing just level 2 and calculating your liquor cost by category, it doesn't give the ability that level 3 inventory does to really see what's happening on a product by product basis. So what I talk about with level 3 inventory is when we integrate the deliveries and the sales down to the individual product level. So we were talking about earlier about writing recipes for individual buttons. What that enables us to do is to calculate precisely how many ounces of, say, Jack Daniel's has been sold in a given period. And then we use scales, and we calculate based on what was there at the start, at the end of the period, and what's been purchased, to compare the exact amount of ounces of each product that was sold compared to what's been poured in real life. And what we found, again, of doing thousands of audits all over the country, is that most bars, when they're not doing level 3 inventory on a regular basis, are missing between 15 and 20% of everything that's poured. So, if you sell 100 servings of alcohol, most times you're gonna actually pour like 115, 120, and it's a pretty big opportunity for your average bar. What we find is there's kind of what we call it the 5-to-1 rule, where each 5% of shrinkage you have typically is going to cost you about 1% on your liquor cost. So imagine you're a bar that's missing 20% of what's being poured. Obviously, there are 4 sort of 5% chunks in 20%. So that would mean that if you're missing 20% of everything poured, your liquor cost is probably 4% higher than kind of the pricing is designed to be. And so we found on average, when you switch over from level 2 inventory to level 3, and obviously lots of different options these days about what software and systems you can use to make that a transition. If you can save 3%, reduce your liquor cost by 3-4 percentage points, then let's just run through those numbers. If you're a bar that does, kind of the median actually of our clients is something like $50,000 in bar sales per month. And so if you're doing $50,000 in bar sales and we reduce the liquor cost by 3-4 percentage points, and then we do that every 12 months of the year, you'll actually save yourself $18,000 a year. And that's just the saving in direct cost. We'll still have those same sales, but what that would mean is we're still doing $50,000 in bar sales, but we're using less product to generate those sales. And of course, in real life, some of those missing product that isn't being rung up or is being overpoured will actually be sold at retail. So sometimes, I don't like to just estimate the retail losses, because normally you don't have someone that's going to buy every one of those drops of alcohol, but in some cases it will be 5 times the cost. So I'd say, perhaps more conservatively, if you just spill it on the bar and forget to ring it up, you just have to repurchase it. But if you could have sold it at retail, you probably could have spun a 5 times return on that. So, conservatively, if we just say that maybe there's a 2x gain, that $18,000 your average bar might be missing would actually be $36,000 a year or $3,000 a month on your bottom line. So just food for thought there. And Horace, I'm sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing your name perfectly, but asking about what the national average is for liquor costs. Something definitely we have a lot of data on. I would say it's probably in the low 20s, something like 20-21%. But again, as I kind of explained earlier, I don't really recommend people focus too much on national averages. The reason for that is it's so specific to your business model. What I think is a better thing to do, again, is to go back to do level 3 inventory, where you're able to compare what you're selling versus pouring in real life. And the advantage of doing that is you'll be able to calculate what your liquor cost would be if you weren't missing any product. So you can actually measure what we call a performance gap. And so rather than sort of compare yourself to the national average, I would say the best thing, again, would be to try and get an audit, or to get a do-it-yourself app or software, and go to the detail of building up to doing level 3 inventory, and then you'll be able to see where your liquor cost is, and then what it would be if every single drink was poured exactly to protocol. And the nice thing about that is it gives you a specific target to aim at that, again, is specific to your business, rather than just aiming. And the other challenge with looking at national averages, from what we've seen, the number of bars doing level 3 inventory is quite small. So most bars are missing that 15 to 20% of all the product they're pouring, and that means most bars have that 3 to 4% sort of growth or in their liquor cost baked into their costs and expectations. So I think we're starting to see, in the same way we've seen growth in point of sale systems, certainly between Bar-I and lots of great competitors with really clever software and features, we're seeing that people are starting to do level 3 inventory, and it's really saving a lot of money, and we're going to see that continue to go down. Tulu is also asking about that 5-to-1 rule. What I'm saying there is that when I talk about accountability, or the reverse of that shrinkage number. So let's say we're a bar where we have 20% shrinkage, where 20% of everything poured is not actually being sold. Then your accountability would be 80%, because 80% of the product being poured was actually being sold. And what we found is that if you go from 80% to 85%, so increase your accountability by 5%, typically that will reduce your liquor cost by one full percentage point. And that 5-to-1 rule, it changes if you're based on product mix, but it does tend to hold pretty well. So as I said, most bars, based on that, experiencing 15 to 20% shrinkage, have a liquor cost which is 3 to 4% higher than it would be if everything was run up. So moving on, just thinking about now, what we might like to think about when we're choosing our inventory system. If we see the sense in if you're not perhaps even measuring liquor cost, or if you're just measuring liquor cost by category, and you're interested in upgrading to a system, or just implementing a system that uses software so it's less time consuming and uses some elements of automation, these are a few of the things that I would think about. The first one is counting speed. We jokingly say that we're an inventory company, and we don't even like doing inventory. It's not the most, it's a very sort of boring, repetitive task. And so I think those sort of basic work that has to be done, if we can do it in a faster way, then obviously that's very welcome change, because we can spend more time digging into numbers, using those numbers to manage staff, and doing perhaps the high level tasks that honestly are more engaging and interesting. So the critical thing, I think, with counting speed often is to have proper organization, or what we would call shelf to sheet or shelf to software. So what we mean by that is you need to have a flexible counting system where wherever you're recording the count, those perhaps tenths, that's a 0.6, that's a 0.4, or perhaps even if you're using somewhere where you're measuring the level on the side of a bottle, or even weighing it, if you have basically a list of products that exactly follows the order in real life on that shelf, then it makes it much, much faster to record those inventory levels. And of course, the advantage with software is we can change those order when the order of products changes. And then also we can set up different areas in the bar, because normally, the order of products in your back bar is not going to be the same as the order of products in the storage area. And so the advantage of being able to set up zones, and then set up the different items within those zones is a really important element, I think, of any good inventory system, is to have that flexibility and improve counting speed. Really obvious one, cost. The cost for inventory systems, we have basic systems starting at $50 a month. Our pro version for weekly clients is all the way up to $500 a month. So there is a big range. There's everything in between. Self-service systems normally fall in the middle of that range, maybe $100 to sort of $200 a month. And then, if you're using a full service system where you're having someone come into the bar and do counts for you, we have full service clients here in Colorado, and one of our bigger clients, is spending almost $500 a week for us to do their counting for them, because it's a huge bar that has actually 4 different bar setups, and it's 2 different separate restaurants that share inventory downstairs. So big range, but really think about what's the cost, and then obviously what are you getting for that. Another interesting or important thing to think about is product mix, because what you do lots of sales in really affects what's going to be the best choice for you. Like most bars, certainly that we deal with, are typically clients that are doing most of their volume in beer, and mostly draft beer and liquor. And that that product mix, which is typical for your average sort of no nonsense drinking bar, means that you need to have proper coverage where you can track your draft beer and you can also track your liquor. And a system that covers both of those types of categories, as well as our bottled beer and our wine, is really important. If, on the other hand, you're a tap room or a brewery that only serves draft beer, then obviously a system that's really detailed, maybe real-time system for draft beer, might be a better fit, because you're not worried about the volume of those other products. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're a wine bar, then you're going to have some different challenges with inventory, stuff like vintages of wines that don't have barcodes, and something like a system like Binwise, which is specialized towards wine, is going to be more effective. I will say with that's probably, if you have a full-time sommelier, that's probably the level where you might think about having a specialized wine system like Binwise. But certainly what you sell impacts what makes sense in terms of an inventory system. And then another one to think about is the measurement system. So, as we said, we all know the old typical way, which is tenthing a bottle, by which I mean you pick up a bottle of Jack Daniels and you say, okay, that's about 40% full. And so you'd call that a 0.4. And that's the typical tenthing or point system. And then real-time systems are going to be measuring what you pour as you pour it. So those systems, I think, work best in the case of draft beer. So they'll have flow meters actually in the draft beer lines, or even sometimes scales under each keg. And also a new technology we just blogged about was something called Keg Safe, where they're actually using electronic impulses shot into the kegs to figure out exactly how much beer is in that keg. We're a big advocate. Just to be upfront, it's the system, or the measurement system that our system is based on, is weight. And obviously the advantage of weight is it's completely objective and very accurate. We use scales that are accurate to 100th of an ounce. And obviously when you're weighing a bottle of, say, Bailey's, which you can't see inside, or maybe a weird shaped bottle like Patron or Crown Royal, having a really precise and objective method like weighing it is really beneficial. And then quickly mention another system that other people are using is basically where it brings up a picture of the bottle and then use a slider to indicate the level of liquid on that vessel. I personally am not a huge fan of that. I think it's a lot of complication without the accuracy of weight, but certainly some people like that. Again, it's up to your personal preference and kind of what makes sense to you. And then, finally, just another thing to think about when you're choosing the inventory system is the amount of support, independence of the numbers, and the amount of follow-up. So, on the one end of the spectrum, we're going to have full service systems where someone will come into your bar and do all the counting for you. And obviously that's the highest level of sort of follow-up, independence of the numbers, because someone different is doing the counting, and also support because they're there when they finish the numbers and to give you feedback and coach your managers about what we should be working on this week, etc. On the other end of the spectrum, less expensive, less support, is going to be do-it-yourself systems where you purchase the hardware and the software, and then you're basically on your own to do the calculations. I think there's a lot of benefit into getting your hands dirty, doing those things yourself. If you're a bar that has the benefit of having a really stable manager, that can work quite well, because obviously there's going to be a learning curve with these types of systems. And then I'll say that our main product, Bar-I system, and what we call the Pro version, kind of fits in the middle of those full service and do-it-yourself systems. So with our main system, your managers do the inventory data collection. So they count and weigh all of the products, and then they also run a sales report from point of sale. and they also gather together their purchase invoices, and then that information is shared with us, and the account manager remotely reconciles all that data, produces an error report or a variance report so they can do double checks, and then actually handwrites the report for them. So that's kind of the full spectrum in terms of get someone to do everything for you, do it yourself, or like a hybrid system in the middle where you do the counting and data collection, and then you've got a dedicated account manager that does the rest for you. So moving on in terms of thinking, what the main systems are. We've mentioned some of these options, but I'm going to call out some specific names here. So we're all familiar with the old school in-house systems using Excel, and increasingly things like Google Docs, clever spreadsheets. You can be collaborative. Normally requires an internet connection, but the advantage of Google Docs is to be able to share it in real time and potentially even have multiple counters inputting data into the same system. And then do-it-yourself systems. These are three of the big ones: BevSpot, Partender, and Bevager. These are all three venture-backed companies that have got a lot of money behind them and are developing really clever software. And certainly they've got a lot of customers, and people enjoy those systems. Full service systems. Certainly you'll find a lot of smaller systems like this in individual towns and locations, but certainly the big boy here is what used to be called Bev&Co or Bev&Tel, and is now called, sorry, spelling error there, but it's Sculpture Hospitality. So they're a franchise business, so they have really good coverage all over the country. And if you want someone to come in and do the counts for you, full service style, then that's a good option. Bar-I ourselves, we have that main hybrid system, like I said, where your managers do the counting, and then we crunch the numbers for you remotely, trying to benefit from the benefits of independent, but also some cost savings from in-house systems. And then some of those real-time systems like Berg or Bar Vision, they're installing flow meters into the top of bottles or into the draft beer lines, so that you can measure what's being poured right at the same time that it's being measured. And then another category of systems, mostly focused on draft beer, is flow meter systems like US Beer Savers. Steady Serve is a company that will actually install scales underneath each keg, and then I Pour It is a automated pouring system where the customers actually pay for beer by the ounce, and then they'll use a sort of electronic wristband, and they can actually pour their own beer, and it charges them per ounce. And that obviously has the benefit that it's measuring and charging them, in fact, for the beer as they dispense it, so that it has less need and less problems with shrinkage and not charging for beer that's being sold. So kind of just thinking about what you should do next if inventory is on your mind as an opportunity. As we said, reminder that we kind of ran through the numbers and worked out for even an average or modest volume bar, probably a sensible estimate, it's probably costing you something around $30,000 per year. So even a full service system is going to cost a lot less than that. And I think this really is a good opportunity for your average bar. I think it's a great idea, as said, to think about what's important to you, think about how often you want to do inventory, what your product mix is, all that stuff. Do your research and get some demos scheduled by different providers. See how you like working with them. Talk about the price and the contracts. And as I said, we think that a lot of these other systems and technology we've talked about have the potential to generate more revenue. How effective and how much they do that is obviously up for debate. But you can be pretty sure that if you're not doing level 3 inventory at your bar, that it's not going to be magic where the amount of alcohol you use is going to precisely match what you sell somehow by chance. And because of the incentivization through tipping, most bars that are suffering a decent amount of shrinkage, and by using a more sophisticated inventory system, it provides a good opportunity to cut into that loss and shrinkage, and ultimately make more money, which is why we're all here. And just to say as well, it's not to say that we don't want to give away any product. Comping, I think, is an important sort of marketing part of the business. But what we would say is, whatever the optimal amount of giveaways and comps for your business is, if you can measure them precisely, obviously you're going to be in the best position to optimize that level and make sure it's at a level which is driving and beneficial for business. So I'll pass back now over to Michael. And if anyone has any other questions related to inventory, by all means, write a text there on the right, and I'd love to answer those at the end.
All right, awesome, Jamie. Thanks for all that awesome information. I'm just going to touch on a few things as we kind of wrap up here, just on bar tech that we're seeing on the horizon. One of those is being augmented reality. Forbes actually predicts that AR tech will soon be used to alert bar staff when when their drinks are empty and are in need of a refill. So it's something that, again, I don't think that everyone is going to see, the next few years, but it is something on the horizon that I think has a really cool application. It's something that is being used in a lot of phone technology now, and it's something that I think in the future could be something that we'll definitely see in bars in the near future. Even AR menus, you're saying. I know in New York Bear Burger chain, they guess use Snapchat to create their dream burger, which appears in 3D. It's actually a really cool idea. I'd even just recommend Googling New York Bear Bar Snapchat burger. It's a really cool idea. Again, it's something that isn't, I think, coming everywhere soon, but it's something that, I mean, if you're looking for a differentiator or something to kind of put you above somebody else, it is a cool little thing to kind of take a look at. We also have rideshare apps 2.0. Freebird app is something that has been gaining a lot of popularity recently. It really incentivizes Uber and Lyft riders to go to bars they partner with and offering different deals in their Uber or rideshare. So basically, what it does is it you get a certain credit or deals if you decide when you get into your Uber to go to their bar or restaurant. It's a pretty cool little idea. It's something that has been gaining a lot of traction recently. So it is something that I think is on the horizon and could be a big part with the huge rise in rideshare across the country. And then you have like Lyft events and even Uber vouchers. These are new platforms that let your bar give out discounts and free rides to patrons and encourage them to come in on slow nights. So basically, you can give or Lyft basically coupons or some sort of discounts for them to hand out in their Ubers in your area to bring people to that bar or restaurant. It can be a really awesome way to bring people in. And I think this is something, the whole rideshare evolution is something that really I think bar owners and restaurant owners should really be keeping their eyes on going forward. And then finally, we're going to talk about robotics. I think everyone has seen the robotic bartender. It is something that is definitely Instagram worthy. It is something that I think people are really interested in for an aesthetic or just kind of like a Instagram moment. But you have things like Barsis or Maker Shaker that are kind of like the Keurig of cocktails. They're basically machines that make drinks on demand. I think people still will be looking for the personality of um, a bartender to kind of do all their cocktail making. But this could be an efficient way to level up your bar or restaurant, just in fact different in a different way. They're not meant to replace bartenders, but they are just a great way to kind of give the customer kind of an Instagram moment or like a social media moment, which is kind of the evolution of tech in bars, is creating these moments for people and creating this kind of different experience for your customers. And I think that's all we have time for today. Just in conclusion, just make sure you're educating yourself, you're using your technology to its fullest, and you are future proofing yourselves. So if you do have any questions, this will be the time. If you do have any questions for myself or for Jamie, if you don't want to ask any questions in the chat right now, you can also reach out to us via email. Jamie is at jamie@bar-i.com, and I'm at michael.wagner@buzztime.com. So yeah, if anyone does have any questions, please go ahead and leave them in the sidebar to the right, and we'll hang out for the next 5, maybe 10 minutes just to see if anybody does have any questions, and we'll go from there. Had a question about the presentation for future reference. Yeah, we will have the YouTube video will be on the Buzztime Business channel. Also, you'll receive a email with the blog wrap up that'll have the video as well as the information provided. So just keep an eye out for that. Should either be sent out a little bit later today or tomorrow. Oh, and Muriel, yeah, we do. We usually do webinars once a month. This month was with Bar-I. We usually do it with a different partner. I know we have one coming up in about 3 weeks with GoDaddy Social. It'll be focusing on, I don't know that we have an exact course yet for it, but we will be seeing, you will see stuff from us monthly. You can even go to our YouTube channel, like I said earlier, Buzztime Business, and we have all of those archived on there if you want to take a look. So yeah, thanks for the question. If anyone does have any further questions for myself or for Jamie, I appreciate that, Muriel. Yeah, we put up like I said, content probably once a month of these, and then we do send out email invites for these, usually about 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So actually, probably around 2 weeks. We should be having our next one exactly. Let me see. I can actually pull it up here. I believe the 15th of August we'll have another one. That'll be with GoDaddy Social. They're a partner that we do do a lot of these with. But we do want to bring in people like Jamie who have a really diverse knowledge of bar inventory that I think can be really helpful for people in the future. It looks like it's kind of dwindled down. I want to again thank everyone. I want to thank Jamie especially for his amazing content that he was able to bring us today. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone joining us today. And Jamie, do you have any last words?
Part of this, certainly Buzztime has much bigger business than us, so it's fun to be able to get in a room and talk to a number of people at once. And of course, we'd love to hear from any of you who have follow-up questions or wanted to schedule a demo. But thank you so much for the opportunity, Michael.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining our webinar. Have a great day.